help but wonder about our own history.
Oh, hello.
So we enlisted the help of Aaron here to dig around our roots and see what could be unearthed. Now, before we get to our results, Aaron, can you explain for the uninitiated how it all works?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me on. So you all did the MyHeritage DNA test. It's a simple cheek swab. Do it at home, send it off to our lab, and you get your results. And it gives you two things. It gives you your ethnic origins, and it finds people who you're related to as well.
Right, OK.
How exciting.
Ed, your envelope
I
first.
was hoping that we're all related to each other.
I thought this
you're
was
first.
I thought this was my BAFTA nomination, which I was about, sadly. Right,
That'll be a stretch.
So it says North and West Europe, 68.8%.
Okay.
I think that means Viking. Irish, Scottish, Welsh, 26.6%. And English, 4.6%.
Wow.
We also discovered a couple of other things. Apparently your maternal great-grandfather, William Green Riseborough, who was born in 1877, was killed on April 27th, 1942 during a direct air attack on the family's home in Norwich. Now, William, he was 65 years old at the time, a market gardener, was one of 339 civilians of Norfolk who lost their lives as a result of airstrikes during WW2. They also discovered your paternal great-grandfather was Frank Balls, born October 1859 in Thorpe, Norfolk. And there is a picture of him right there.
Oh, my goodness. Did you know this, Ed?
I actually did know this. And do you know what the great story about this is that they never could find his father. And his mother was called Maria Balls. So the only reason we're called Balls' family is because he took his mother's name because the father could never be identified. If they'd found the father, I could have spent the last 57 years being called something Smith or Cooper or something much easier to deal with.
Clooney.
I was Balls because of the illegitimate whoever it was.
Yes, back in the day. Kate, your envelope, if I may.
Oh, crikey, OK. Well, that sounded lovely. Could we get to get your bits afterwards, Richard?
Yes,
Find out
no,
more?
I'll reveal.
Here we
Yes,
go.
don't worry.
Well, I'm English 83.7%.
Clearly.
North and West Europe 12.9%. Ashkenazi Jewish 3.4%.
So our English rose through and through.
Fantastic.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? We also
I
found
love
out
the
that your
Ashkenazi Jewish.
family tree doubled in size from 84 to 201 people since your last DNA test, which we did, I think, about 2017, didn't we? Mostly unveiling your deep French roots, stretching back to 1620 Normandy.
Really?
Yeah, also says you're not a natural blonde, and this is coming from me. Kate is known for her fashion taste, right?
What?
So you won't be surprised to learn that it probably runs through the genes. This is fascinating.
That's right.
Your great-great-grandmother, Marie Marceline, also from French origins, had been a dressmaker.
Really?
She frocked up in court back in 1620.
So my who is she the parents of? Was it Edward and Louisa? Because that's my Guernsey great-grandparents. Is that right?
She comes from the Guernsey side.
Does
and
she?
Her father-in-law was Jacques, who lived in a place called Le Pieux and moved over from Normandy to Guernsey.
Really?
Yeah, he was a carpenter. So, we discovered that there was a massive need for carpenters in Guernsey. The shipbuilding industry was kicking off, and he went and used his talents there.
That's amazing. And so Marie, what was the surname, maiden name?
Marceline.
Yeah.
Marceline. And so it's from... That's amazing.
That's right. She was living in the UK as a dressmaker.
How
Is this why
incredible.
Kate is so classy?
That's right.
Yeah.
In the family.
And we'll segue neatly to another class act on the desk.
My
Mark,
goodness, I
take it
really-
away.
Sure.
I want to talk to Aaron afterwards. I want to know more. Right, Marceline.
Okay. All right. This... Oh, my God. I've got all of these. Interesting.
You've got a lot.
Okay, 71% Nigerian. Now, that makes total sense to me because lots of ports in Nigeria. I am my ancestors' wildest dreams, right? Because I'm descendants of slaves. And my family are from Jamaica, so they must have travelled from slave ports to settle in Jamaica. My mum and dad are, and I believe my granddad is. But then I've got Sierra Leonean, 11.2%. What I'm intrigued by is Baltic, 5.4%.
Yeah.
Eastern European, 5.4%. Italian, Greek, Irish, Scottish.
Wow.
But 71%
Yes.
Nigerian.
I mean, that makes complete sense, right?
Another passport, possibly.
What's the Baltic bit?
So the Nigerian and Sierra Leonean is very classic that we see in Jamaicans from West African origins, obviously because of the slave trade. But the European, we're all a tapestry. We're all made up of people from generations before us, And at some point in the history,
Speaking of tapestries,
Yeah.
let's tug on a thread with Laura's past.
Do you have Lithuanian links?
No.
Possibly.
I think you do.
Oh, mine is very straightforward. So Irish, Scottish, Welsh 64.5% and Scandinavian 35.5%. Yeah.
There you have it. And your paternal Irish roots are those of her great-great-great-grandfathers Patrick Tobin, who made horseshoes, and Lawrence Healy, who was a wool sorter. So there you have
What's a
it.
wool sorter?
Sorts out wool, I imagine.
Oh,
there's a very interesting story with Laura, if we have the time. Laura, there was a big fire in Ireland which destroyed a lot of records. So actually, your Irish genealogy, your Irish heritage is very difficult to find. But we discovered a lot of things. You had a match, a DNA match. One of the things you get with DNA is a match to a lady called Janine in the US. And she had a lot of interesting information about your family, including this photo. This is your ancestral home in County Kerry.
No way. That's crazy.
She went on a trip to look at her heritage and visit her and discover more. So she has this for you. She also has a message for you, which I'll give you later.
Oh, wonderful.
That's crazy. That's so exciting. I have relatives. This is like
I love it. It's wonderful that we're all, as you say, such a tapestry.
right.
And
Right. I am, this explains the lantern jaw, English 48.1%, Scandinavian 23.7%. So there is a natural blonde in here somewhere.
there really?
Eastern European 13.7%, Irish, Scottish, Welsh 10%. That explains my love of Celtic roots. Balkan 3.8%.
Yes.
Could you briefly just explain the Balkan for both Marverine and Richard? Because that is something that would be a surprise, maybe.
Sure. So obviously it's a lower amount and it can be passed through generations. I mean, talking about the ethnicity test, it's going back hundreds of years. So over time, people live in different places. They marry and have children.
There must be a wild Richard story. Have you got anything?
I've got a lovely story about Richard. This is the story of the last name Arnold and why you're called Arnold. I don't know how much of it you're aware, but a lot of your heritage goes back to Berkshire. And your great-grandmother was Rose Arnold. She was one of 11 kids living in a small four-room home. And her dad worked in the railway with his father. At the age of somewhere in her late teens, she was sent to be a domestic cook in a home. She went to work, kind of like Downton Abbey, in the kitchens. And around 1908, she became pregnant. We don't have any listing of who the father was. And obviously, she had to make the very hard choice of placing her child into foster care. Eventually, he's sent 200 miles away to live in Salford. And he kept the last name Arnold, which was from his mother. And traditionally, people kept the family name from the father's line.
Exactly.
But Arnold is because of this great-grandma, Rose Arnold. And what's really interesting is that when your grandfather grew up, Frank, he went off to marry Florence. And Florence grew up living on Arnold Road.
Oh, good old
Look, thank you so much. We're all going to pile on top of you
We
to
are.
find out
Oh,
more.
wait.
Seeing
A
the
lot of
themes
notes
that we're
here.
seeing across the country at the moment, the idea that we're all made up of such a mixed
know.
tapestry feels
Amen.
really
Absolutely
heartwarming and
brilliant.
important to remember,
Thank
doesn't
you
it?
so much.
Thank
for
you.
Clarence.